To stop Xing Yu's conversation with Lian, Gao Zhenhe kisses her. Shortly after the kiss, the two get separated. In order to find Gao Zhenhe, Xing Yu climbs a tall structure, and people assume she intends to jump. By the time the two are reunited, it is all over social media that Gao Zhen was the reason Xing Yu intended to take her life. Gao Zhenhe takes her to the entrance of the cliff and leaves her there. However, he later goes back for her. When he eventually finds her, he saves her from a strange man and takes her home. Instead of admitting his actions, Gao Zhenhe tells Xing Yu that he was training her abilities to locate him. Later, Gao Zhen sneaks into Chen Wencan's room and in the room, he finds a box, but before he has an opportunity to crack it open and take a look, Xing Yu walks in on him and assumes that he is doing something wrong. Although she doesn't like lying and stealing, she helps him escape the room before he gets caught. Back at home, Xiana tells Gao Zhenhe she has booked him for a mission orchestrated by Lian. The mission is to compete against his rival Dong Yunxi to secure a very rare gem from a mine in Tudong. When Gao Zhenhe leaves for the airport, Xiana is left to look after Xing Yu, but she lets her go to the zoo with Yitan. Before boarding the plane, Gao Zhenhe sees Xing Yu on a live stream with Yitan and immediately doubles back to save her from exposing her true identity. After he saves her, Xiana convinces Gao Zhenhe to take Xing Yu along on his mission, saying she might be helpful, and this turns out to be the case. In Tudong, Gao Zhenhe and Xing Yu encounter a few obstacles set up by Dong Yunxi. As a result, Dong Yunxi gets ahead of them. To catch up, the pair decide to take a shortcut through the woods called the Death Route. The Death Route is riddled with landmines and snakes. Eventually, both Xing Yu and Gao Zhenhe make it out of the Death Route unharmed. When they reach the mine, the pair learn that Dong Yunxi was there first. And the mine owner sells a fake gem to Gao Zhenhe, but with Xing Yu's help, Gao Zhen realizes that he is being deceived. Upon returning from Tudong, Gao Zhenhe is declared the winner of the contest since he was able to figure out the gem was a fake. As news of the competition spreads in the gem hunting industry, Dong Yunxi's company begins to lose clients as they are all now interested in working with Gao Zhenhe. This upsets Dong Yunxi, and he vows to remain Gao Zhenhe's sworn enemy. Later, Xiana starts to think deeply about the relationship between Gao Zhenhe and Xing Yu, and she realizes that Gao Zhenhe has grown fond of Xing Yu. Determined to hold on to the man she loves, Gao Zhenhe, Xiana tries to get rid of Xing Yu by giving her a fake star stone. Since Xing Yu can tell faux gems apart from original ones, she immediately knows it is a fake. Upset that her plan failed, Xiana resorts to plan B and tells Xing Yu that Gao Zhenhe has sold the stone because he only cares about money and not her. This information leaves Xing Yu heartbroken, so she locks herself in her room and calls Yitan. Before she can give him full details, Gao Zhenhe climbs in through the window and attempts to apologize. The apology doesn't go as planned because the lights go out, and Gao Zhenhe has a panic attack. The darkness makes him remember his past and his mother's death. Even after the lights are back on, Gao Zhenhe is still overcome by his emotional trauma. Shortly after, Yitan shows up and takes Xing Yu away with him. At Yitan's house, Xing Yu is visibly miserable, so Yitan takes her out for dessert to cheer her up, but that doesn't work. At the shop, the two try to figure out why Xing Yu feels sad, and eventually, Xing Yu admits that she wants to make Gao Zhenhe happy. Thinking that money will make Gao Zhenhe happy, Xing Yu decides to become a social media star in order to get rich. With Yitan's help, Xing Yu starts streaming live, and soon, she starts to gain massive popularity, especially after she instantaneously catches a falling flower pot to save Yitan. The video of Yitan and Xing Yu goes viral to the point that it rakes in over 6 million views. Knowing that money is Xing Yu's motivation for making live streams, on the other hand, Gao Zhenhe is very gloomy because he misses Xing Yu. Since he thinks she is still upset with him, he doesn't go to her. He stays back at home with Xiana and Qin Shu, and the three discuss their work and the next line of action. Instead of paying attention to the conversation, Gao Zhenhe continues to watch the video of Xing Yu over and over again. Finally, unable to stop himself, he drives over to Yitan's house. When Gao Zhenhe pulls up in front of the house, Xing Yu spots him immediately and runs to him. The two have a heart-to-heart conversation, and Xing Yu tells Gao Zhenhe that though she is mad at him, she wants to make him to be happy. Before taking his leave, Gao Zhenhe asks Yitan to be Xing Yu's temporary guardian, stating that he will come back for her. At home, Gao Zhenhe learns from Xiana and Qin Shu that the star stone has been processed into a blue star sapphire worth millions. They also tell him that testing has been carried out, and there are no precious stones to be mined anywhere near the cliff that Xing Yu came from. Xiana points out that this means Xing Yu is of no use to them anymore. She tells Gao Zhenhe that he can either sell the stone and find an excuse to get rid of Xing Yu or return the stone to her, and send her on her way. Yitan is elated by the news that he is now Xing Yu's guardian, and the next day he takes Xing Yu to the mall, where she is pounced on by a throng of fans. Xing Yu does not like the attention since it means she can no longer have privacy. In search of a remedy to the situation, Yi Tan and Xing Yu go to Gao Zhenhe's house and ask for help. Gao Zhenhe's solution is to turn Xing Yu into a regular girl so that people will lose interest in her. To make Xing Yu appear more regular, Xia Na gives her a makeover, and she emerges looking beautiful. Xing Yu's beauty stuns both Gao Zhenhe and Yi Tan. Through it all, Gao Zhenhe tries to remain focused on his plan to befriend Chen Wencan and learn his secret. The more time Yi Tan spends with Xing Yu, the more his feelings for her grow, so he decides to ask her to be his girlfriend. On a live stream, he announces to his fans that he will ask her to be his girlfriend at a specific location later that evening and asks for their help. Back at the house, Xia Na, Gao Zhenhe, and Qin Shu are finalizing a plan that will help them figure out the contents of Chen Wencan's box. Just as the trio are leaving the house to initiate their plan to learn Chen Wencan's secret, Gao Zhenhe learns of Yi Tan's plan. Immediately Gao Zhenhe heads out to the location Yi Tan selected to stop it from happening, and he takes Qin Shu with him. On reaching the place, Gao Zhenhe hides Xing Yu in his. He ends up taking the confession for her and ruining Yi Tan's plan. Xia Na is left to keep an eye on Chen Wencan, and things get out of hand. Chen Wencan is in danger and almost gets kidnapped by Dong Yunxi's men. As a result, a fight breaks out between Dong Yunxi's men and the men Xia Na hired to look out for Chen Wencan. Immediately, Xia Na calls Qin Shu and informs him. Quickly, Qin Shu and Gao Zhenhe head back, bringing Xing Yu with them. When they return to the house, Gao Zhenhe and Qin Shu meet Xia Na, and she confronts Gao Zhenhe for his decision to jeopardize their mission because of Xing Yu. In response to this, Gao Zhenhe assures Xia Na that he will get things back on track, but she remains upset. Once again, Xia Na feels like she is losing Gao Zhenhe to Xing Yu, so she challenges Xing Yu to a duel in a bid to win him back. Xing Yu accepts the challenge, and Xia Na drives her to an isolated area of the city. When Xing Yu and Xia Na reach their destination, Xia Na starts the duel, but she soon realizes she is no match for Xing Yu. Xia Na starts crying and convinces Xing Yu to let her have Gao Zhenhe's love. Back at the house, Gao Zhen, he has managed to locate Chen Wencan. He also manages to convince Chen Wencan to sleep over since his apartment is not safe. Gao Zhenhe's plan is to make Chen Wencan reveal his secrets. However, this plan fails because Xia Na and Xing Yu show up at the house shortly after. To get some alone time, Gao Zhenhe enters the wine cellar in his house where the Blue Star Sapphire and other precious gems are kept. Surprisingly, Xing Yu manages to crack the code, and she enters the vault to find him. Luckily for Gao Zhenhe, Xing Yu does not identify the Blue Star Sapphire as her starstone because it has now been processed. As the two discuss, Gao Zhenhe makes Xing Yu promise not to tell Chen Wencan about the wine cellar or his plans. Back upstairs, Gao Zhenhe, Chen Wencan, Xing Yu, and Xia Na have dinner together. After dinner, they have drinks and play games till everyone except Chen Wencan falls asleep. With everyone asleep, Chen Wencan starts snooping around the house, but Gao Zhenhe wakes up to find him attempting to open the door to the cellar. The next morning, Gao Zhenhe leaves the house and Xing Yu tails him in a cab suspecting that he was going to do something wrong. Eventually, she learns that Gao Zhenhe was just visiting a blind boy. In truth, Gao Zhenhe planned to investigate Chen Wencan's room but he couldn't with Xing Yu around, instead he returns home. At the house, Yi Tan shows up with takeout, and while the others are eating, he pulls Gao Zhenhe aside and confronts him for ruining his proposal. The two argue back and forth, and Gao Zhenhe makes it clear that he doesn't want Yi Tan and Xing Yu to be together, but he doesn't admit that he has feelings for her, but Yi Tan can see right through him. Since Xing Yu's presence ruined the original plan, Qin Shu, Xia Na, and Gao Zhenhe devise a new plan to keep Chen Wencan away from his house long enough for them to search his room. Gao Zhenhe and Xing Yu are left alone in the house. Xing Yu accuses Gao Zhenhe of being up to no good, but he ignores her. Overcome by the need to get Xing Yu off his back, Gao Zhenhe takes her downstairs to the cellar and tells her the truth about the Blue Star Sapphire. He apologizes for having it processed and gives it back to her so she can return to her people, but to his surprise, she gives him the gem back, saying she will only return home with him. In response to this, Gao Zhenhe says he will only follow Xing Yu home if he falls in love with her. Unbothered, Xing Yu assures him that he will fall in love with her. In one last attempt to get rid of Xing Yu, Gao Zhenhe tells her to move in with Yi Tan, but she refuses his offer. After their plan is successful, Chen Wencan has no other choice than to move in with Gao Zhenhe. Before Chen Wencan's arrival, Gao Zhenhe preps Xing Yu for the possibility that she might have to lie. Shortly after, Chen Wencan arrives with Xia Na and Qin Shu. When Xia Na sees Xing Yu still in the house, she gets upset and leaves angrily with Qin Shu. Still suspicious of Gao Zhenhe and his friends, Chen Wencan starts asking Xing Yu questions, and again Xing Yu lies to protect her identity and keep Gao Zhenhe's secret. As time passes, Chen Wencan gets more comfortable in the house, and he begins to watch television with Xing Yu. One of the shows brings up the topic of love, and Xingyu is intrigued by it, so she begins to ask questions, but she doesn't receive satisfactory answers. Later that day, Chen Wancan, Gao Zhenhe, and Xingyu play games together. One of the games brings up the topic of love, and once again, Xingyu starts asking questions. Since Xia Na is still sulking, Qin Shu goes off to meet Yi Tan and asks him to tell him his horoscope with Xia Na. Back at Gao Zhenhe's house, the game continues until it is interrupted by Lian, who has come to visit. Since he does not want Chen Wancan to see Lian, Gao Zhenhe suggests that they talk in her coffee shop. Before heading out, Gao Zhenhe contacts Xia Na and asks her to go over to his house to keep an eye on Chen Wancan and Xingyu. During their conversation, Lian confesses her feelings for Gao Zhenhe, but he turns her down. On his way out, Gao Zhenhe gets into a fight with Dong Yunxi. Back at the house, Chen Wancan tells Xingyu that being in love is like feeling electric shocks, so she goes on to electrocute herself. In a bid to save Xingyu, Chen Wancan touches her and also gets electrocuted. When Xia Na arrives at the house, she meets Xingyu and Chen Wancan in their predicament, and she immediately saves them. Shortly after things are back to normal, Qin Shu and Yi Tan arrive at Gao Zhenhe's house, and the five start playing drinking games and having fun together. When Gao Zhenhe returns home, the mini-party is still ongoing, and so no one pays any attention to him. Moments later, the mini-party ends because everyone but Xingyu and Gao Zhenhe has fallen asleep. However, when Xingyu tries to talk to Gao Zhenhe, he acts petty and goes to his bedroom because she didn't speak to him earlier. To get Gao Zhenhe's attention, Xingyu follows him into his room and starts jumping on his bed. Eventually, he talks to her, and out of nowhere, she asks if he wants to love. Subscribe for more videos like this, turn on the notification, and leave a like if you think we should make the next part. Thank you.